Alright, this is kind of an overview of my record cleaning system that I've sort of developed, sort of do-it-yourself style. Got a drying rack over here where I'm going to clean this big chunk of records, and a few more over here. I just have all these records stacked on some file folders, kind of file organizers that I picked up at Office Depot. I think they're probably about $7 or $8 a pop. I like these. You can find all kinds of racks you can hold your record in to air dry if you want. I like these because, as you can see, the support there hits the middle label, so it's not touching the play surface at all. This is a new record, but as you can see there, it's got plenty of dust and dirt on it. I like to wash every single record that I get, new or old, so it's nice and clean before it goes onto my turntable. So this is kind of where the records will dry once I've cleaned them. I've taken them all out of their sleeves, and they'll all be going into some brand new Sleeve City Audiophile Ultimate inner sleeves. These are some newer ones which have the arrows, which are kind of handy so you can see which is the open end. I like these sleeves a lot. A lot of people like the MoFi sleeves and other things. I just kind of like these because they're sturdy enough with that inner paper, and it's pretty easy to deal with the records. They slide in and out easily, so that's what I like. Your mileage may vary. My cleaning system is pretty simple in theory, but it works pretty well. I do basically a complete dunk bath in these here. This is a Tergitol wash solution using the sort of Library of Congress method Tergitol solution, and then a distilled water rinse. And I'm completely submerging the records in each of these. So some folks get really concerned about the inner label. I find almost no effects or damage at all to your record label. I'm not a collector of really valuable records. I'm not really reselling records. So if you have particularly valuable records that you really care about, I might put a little more effort into protecting the label, but I've watched hundreds of records this way, and I've found maybe one or two where you see some water damage, or where it wasn't really pressed very well into the vinyl, and you'll see some bubbling kind of at the inner sprocket there, the little inner hole. So that's what I do. I know you'll find a lot of folks on the forums really kind of paranoid about how to protect the inner label. Don't let any liquid or moisture touch the label, like it's gonna somehow explode, or the ink's gonna run. I've washed hundreds of records this way, and there's almost no impact. I found one obscure Polish pressing of a Gil Evans album, for instance, where the red ink washed right off the label into my liquid, but the label was pretty much unaffected. Other than that, I just kind of had to replace the liquid and then just wash the record surface again and try to keep it off the label. So that's kind of my concerns there, which is not really much at all. The Tergitol solution that I use, I picked up, ordered online from Talas, T-A-L-A-S. You can see their website there, talasonline.com. You can Google them. They are sort of a purveyor, resellers of sort of museum and archival supplies. So they sell a lot of tools and stuff for libraries and museums that are doing restoration and preservation of books and paintings and that kind of thing. So you can buy this. This is let's see, I think this is like a pint size Tergitol 15S3, and another one, this is Tergitol 15S9. If I recall correctly, one of them is water soluble and the other one is like oil soluble surfactant, which is sort of fancy soap. This bottle here cost me about $20, so figure about $40 plus a little bit of shipping. To get these guys, I use just a generic little eyedropper I picked up at probably Walgreens or something. I do 10 drops of each of these into a gallon of distilled water. And then I wash probably about this entire rack of records here. I got probably about, I don't know how many, about 25 records here. So I wash about 25 records using about a gallon, maybe half gallon or so of Tergitol solution. So you can wash thousands of records with just a couple pints. This will last me lifetimes. I've been using this for a couple years and it's almost completely full. So this is going to last me forever. So the cost of washing records and sort of replenishing this fluid is almost nothing. So basically my continuing cost of washing records is about 89 cents a gallon for some just generic supermarket distilled water, which is, you know, probably going to be a little bit cleaner than sort of out of the faucet. I live here in Seattle. We have kind of glacial silt water from the mountains. It's really good water, but there's probably a lot of minerals in it. So, you know, it doesn't break the bank to spend a few dollars on distilled water. I'm just using some generic QFC distilled water. You could probably spend more and get some fancy laboratory distilled water, or do it yourself if you want. But that seems about good enough for me. So this is kind of my process. This is some Tergitol in a 14-inch round by 2-inch baking pan I got at a restaurant store. These are a little pricey. They're probably like $25 or $30 each. But they're really convenient. They fit a record in there just perfectly. I had a hard time finding kind of a nice wide shallow dish that a record would fit in, but if you can find something square that's cheaper, yeah, it's just a pan. Same thing for the distilled water over here. I try to change out the distilled water very frequently, because as you wash your record in here, you kind of migrate. As you rinse it off, you get the surfactant in there, and I try to keep the records pretty clean so there's very little left on the surface. So I change the distilled water out probably every half dozen or so records, so it's nice and fresh, and you're able to rinse all of your cleaning solution off the record pretty well. You know, I'm just in my laundry room, pretty easy. I got a sink there, which makes it easy to dump stuff out. Just find a little spot. I just use the lid of this guy to kind of keep water and mess off my washing machine. And then for the brush, when I use with cleaning, I just dedicate I think this is the MoFi brush. This sort of flexible rubber with a cleaning pad. I really like this brush. The cleaning pad has a lot of bristles. I think the brush is probably about $15 or so, and you can get replacement pads. They're just sort of this velvet. Let's see if my camera will focus here. This velvet material that you can stick right on there, just sort of sticky back. So I try to replace this every once in a while when this starts to get worn, and I use that to wet clean my records. I have another one of these that I also use for dry cleaning, but I just dedicate this guy just to wet cleaning, and then I replace the pad every, I don't know, 100 records or so. And that's pretty much what how my system works, and I'll give it a little whirl for you. Wash a couple records, and you know, you can adapt this to however you want to do it. Just give you some ideas. Maybe you can give me some suggestions what I could try to make things better. This seems to work really well on, you know, just sort of surface grime and grit. Stuff that's really aggressively sort of worn into the record, really old records that have been played a lot dirty. This works pretty well, but, you know, it'll leave some grime and grit behind, so I actually have some wood glue there that I'm going to try probably when I get around to it. Sort of a more aggressive clean for that hard to get stuff deep in the grooves that's sort of probably worn into the grooves. But if you have just records that are dirty, coming from Goodwill, they're new, they got dust on them, and you're just trying to lift all of that surface material off, this seems to work extremely well. So I'll give you a demonstration. Alright, and by the way, these are just some generic vinyl gloves. I had some latex gloves also, but these are just vinyl examination gloves I like to wear. Keep your hands clean, keep your hands off the record. Yeah, I'm not really a chemist, but I figure, you know, vinyl on vinyl isn't going to hurt anything or interact with anything on the record. Right. So here we go. Here we have a brand new copy of the Menahan Street Band. As you can see, there's a lot of dust just on the surface. So this is a brand new record, came right out of a cardboard sleeve, but that's a lot of crap that I want to get off of there. Here's the other side. And just if you're curious about label damage, this is the label coming right out of the sleeve. I just opened it, bought this new at, I think it was probably Easy Street Records in Queen Anne. I think they're closing, which is sad, but there you get a good look at that label. And if you want to sort of, I'll try to show it again after I wash it so you can see. But I give it a good complete soak and dunk. I kind of allow the water to wash off it and kind of wash some of that dust off of there. And I basically hold it with one hand, take my MoFi cleaning brush with the other, and I try to go around the play surface with just some sort of moderate pressure, kind of back and forth a couple times, both directions. I usually rotate about 180 degrees. This is a pretty thick record. This looks like maybe 180 gram pressing. Some of that thin stuff from the 70s is really flexible, so kind of rotating it in your hand a little bit helps you get sort of the other side, because you'll see the record will bend a lot when you get to the far side because I can't really support it. If you have room to maybe put this record down on a surface that you can keep clean, and then press it around, maybe you could try something like that, but this is pretty easy for me. My biggest problem is remembering to clean the other side of the record sometimes. So for a new record like this, I probably wouldn't brush it quite so much, but just sort of demonstrating what I would do, particularly for some Goodwill finds that can be really grimy. So it goes back in here, I kind of shake it, rinse it off pretty good. Trying to get kind of as much of the surface solution off of there as I can. And you can also tell that this is the Tergitol because it bubbles up kind of, as if it were soap. You could probably do a similar solution pretty cheaply with, some dish soap and distilled water. The distilled water, is still going to bubble up a little bit, but not nearly as much. But as I wash and this distilled water starts to get a little bit bubbly, you can tell that there's going to be more of that solution has been washed off into here. So I try to wash this very frequently. Anyway, I give this a really good rinse. You can also, I don't know if you noticed in between, but the Tergitol kind of cuts the surface tension of the water, so it really kind of stays on the record. But the distilled water, when it's really fresh, as you can see, will bead up quite nicely, and most of it will just rinse right off the record. As you can see, it's covered with water, and it just pours pretty much off of there, leaving just some drops. So that is now a washed record. It didn't take me very long, even with all my yakking. So this is a good method to wash a lot of records really fast without spending, 5 minutes on each one with, vacuum cleaners and all kinds of stuff and trying to protect the label. And so it's kind of an aggressive cleaning solution. Works really well. Here's the. Try not to blow on the surface of the record because your breath is always going to be a little dirty. So here's the label again. Looks pretty good. You might be able to see a little bit there in the middle, sort of some maybe minor effect of the moisture. But for a record that I want to play and listen to, not one that I'm trying to sell for $300 or something, it's just fine. This is a used record. You got Outcast, Aquemini, picked up at a record store. Might have been a DJ record, I don't know, but it looks like it's in pretty good condition. But again, a lot of surface material on there, and we're gonna wash that right off. So again, as I was describing with the surface tension of the water, you can see that Tergitol just stays right on the record because the chemicals cut that surface tension a lot. So this is basically completely coated with liquid right now, whereas with the distilled water it would pull right off and kind of beat up on the surface in big drops. And some of you are going, oh, the horror of the inner label. And I'm an audiophile. I really care about the music quality, so I really care about the play surface more than the label. I'm not a collector, so that's my perspective. If you're a collector, you might be freaking out about this, but people have done a lot worse with records, and this gets the play surface clean, which is my goal. Alright, so I'm kind of reached about my halfway point in my washing here. I've kind of stopped here, so I've washed all of these records. It's only taken me about 10 or 15 minutes, so it's pretty fast to clean records. These are all used records. I kind of front loaded, this was a newer record, these were kind of cleaner. Try to put the cleaner records and newer records in the front, so I'm washing those first. So I'm not washing a whole bunch of really dirty Goodwill finds and then kind of washing the clean records in the dirt and grime of that, the brand new ones. It should wash all the stuff off of there, but I just sort of as being particular, I try to put the newer records, watch those first. So anyway, I've reached about the halfway point here. I have, like I say, I got exactly 29, so almost 30 records here to clean. But the reason I wanted to stop and show you is sort of where you can see, maybe if I can get this camera in here, some of the gunk and material that will wash off of the record. So you can see kind of all that stuff swimming around there. That's sort of dirt and gunk and grime that have washed off of the records. So that's basically all noise that's coming off of the record. So just improving the quality of vinyl, great deal just by cleaning them, making sure everything is nice and clean. There's a whole lot of noise and gunk and grime, little hairs and stuff floating around in there. So that's all kinds of junk that comes off your records if you're buying them at a used record store. So that's why every single record I buy, new or old, gets completely washed before it goes on my turntable. Not just because it sounds better, obviously if it's clean, but if you're playing a dirty record, you're going to just wear all that dirt and grime into the record, and it's going to get stuck there kind of forever, and it's never going to sound nice and clean. So, you know, you can have debates about CD versus vinyl all you want, but if you do want vinyl to sound great, you want it to be clean, so it has that nice clean quality that you get with CD very easily, or any kind of digital format. And then you'll really be able to hear what vinyl has to offer without all the crap that's right there in the way. You want the music, you don't want to be hearing that. This is my rinse bath. This is deeper, but this should be very clean in comparison. You can't see stuff floating around. There's little bubbles on the surface, but down in there's very little that you can really see, because this is nice and clean. Alright, I just kind of want to do an update as things have dried as I've been washing them, just to kind of show you what the labels look like in terms of any kind of visible water damage or that sort of thing. Since some of you are curious about that, these are continuing to dry, but here's an Outcast label. Generally any kind of, you know, water effects that you'll see are usually going to be, you know, right on the outer edge of the label, at the sort of inner spindle hole, or sort of in this inner groove, or if you have some really old deep groove records, you know, that you'll find some of these sort of indentation grooves, part of the stamper. But just kind of a representation of some different records and different kinds of labels from different eras. Here's this is Albert King from 1976. Again, you know, this has been completely submerged in cleaning solution and water. It has been drying for, you know, just 15-20 minutes, and, you know, the ink is pristine. I guess somebody draw something there, but you know, the paper is pristine pretty much. So if you're really paranoid or worried, or just have never gotten a label wet in your life and think it's gonna, you know, the ink is gonna run and the paper is gonna just get completely ruined, or do you think it's the same as dipping a book into water? Yeah, that's a label's been dipped completely in water, thoroughly submerged in cleaning solution and water, and you know, if you saw this in a record store, you probably would have absolutely no idea that it had. So, you know, if you're really worried about that, hopefully that'll give you a little confidence as you clean your records. Here's a Stephen Stills. Got one little bit of water that's still drying on there. But again, inner label looks pretty pristine. Here's a 1975 Classical on Nonsuch. Interesting, actually, when I saw this, I don't know if you can see that little bubbling there. That was actually there before I dipped it. And it's still there. And I don't know if you can look really closely in that inner hole. You can kind of see that slightly different shade. That's a little bit of effect of the moisture. So you can see that there's some very slight aesthetic effects on some labels, but it's really minor. And you know, for me, my goal is just cleaning the record, and as long as it's not damaging the label, in any significant way, then I'm cool with it. Here's a rather old Decca. I'm actually not sure what year this is. Here's Andres Segovia on Decca. Again, it's been completely submerged. Been drying for maybe 15 minutes, but looks pretty darn good. Here's some Leo Kotke, or Kotke on Capital. Jackson Brown, 1986. Again, label looks just fine. Here's Stax Albert King. One of those Franklin Mint records. I think this is 1980. Let's see. 1981, something like that. 1985 looks like. Hard to say. Anyway, it's from the 80s. Again, label looks just fine.